Think's going to win in the fight between Jack Della and Islam?
It's a good fight, but a tough fight. I go a little bit more on Islam.
Past week, there is a narrative that has come out that this is going to be an awful fight. It's going to be awful because Islam will do to Jack what Chimaev did to Drikas.
When Khamzat Chimaev speaks, the MMA world listens. Few fighters in the game carry that raw unpredictability, that aura of danger, and that honesty in breaking down fights the way Khamzat does. And now, when he is asked about the potential matchup between Islam Makhachev and Jack Maddalena, the entire conversation of what is possible inside the octagon has changed. This is not just another fight prediction. This is a clash of two completely different energies, two completely different philosophies, and two completely different skill sets. Makhachev has been stamped as the heir to the throne, the next in line after Khabib, a man who has suffocated his way through the lightweight division. Jack Maddalena, on the other hand, has been painted as the underdog, the outsider, the fighter who should have no chance against the relentless grappling machine. But that is exactly why this fight matters. Because in this game, every time we label someone as the lamb being led to slaughter, MMA finds a way to shock the world.
This video will break down exactly what Khamzat Chimaev said, what Chael Sonnen added, and why every single fan needs to stop underestimating Jack Maddalena. You will hear the raw truth, the doubts, the misconceptions, and the real danger both fighters bring to the cage. We will go through each point one by one and peel back the layers. And by the end, you will realize that dismissing Jack is not only lazy, but downright disrespectful to what he has already proven inside that cage. Before we begin, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications so you never miss a breakdown of the biggest fights in the sport. This is Boxy Hub, and today we are diving deep into the chaos surrounding Islam Makhachev versus Jack Maddalena. When Khamzat Chimaev was asked directly who he thought would win between Islam Makhachev and Jack Maddalena, his answer was short but explosive. He admitted that it is a good fight, he acknowledged that it would be tough for Jack, and then he leaned in toward Islam as the safer pick. On the surface, this sounds like a simple response, but the layers of this statement go deep. Khamzat is not one to hand out compliments loosely. For him to call it a good fight already signals that Jack is not to be treated as some irrelevant contender. He recognizes that Jack brings something to the table, something real, something dangerous. Yet, at the same time, Khamzat also knows the aura surrounding Islam. Makhachev represents the most dominant style in MMA today, the Dagestani suffocation blueprint that Khabib made famous. To lean toward Islam is not surprising. It is almost the default answer for anyone when asked about a wrestler of that caliber. But the key here is that Khamzat does not dismiss Jack. He does not laugh off the idea. He does not mock the matchup. He actually frames it as tough for Jack, which means, in his mind, Jack has legitimate weapons but may lack the experience or the depth of answers to completely shut down a fighter like Islam. Now let us break that down even more. When someone like Chimaev, who has felt the grind of elite grappling, who has lived in the fire of combat at the highest levels, says something will be tough for Jack, he is not just repeating a narrative. He is speaking from his own lived knowledge. Khamzat knows the grind of a fighter who can chain wrestle for 25 minutes. He knows how suffocating it feels to have no breathing room inside the cage. He knows what it is like to have a man pressing you against the fence, wearing you down inch by inch. So when he says tough, he means suffocating. He means exhausting. He means mentally draining. But he also says it is a good fight, which shows he sees Jack as capable of creating resistance. Jack is not seen as a victim here. He is seen as a fighter who can ask questions of Islam, who can make it uncomfortable, who can drag this fight into places where Islam may not walk away untouched. The lean toward Islam is significant because Khamzat himself embodies that Dagestani-style dominance with his own twist. He knows how difficult it is to stop someone who thrives in that style. But the fact that he stops short of outright dismissing Jack should send a message to the fans. If Khamzat believed Jack was a dead man walking, he would have said it. Instead, he left the door cracked open. That crack is where all the intrigue lies. That crack is where the upset lies. That crack is where Jack's chance begins to breathe. And in MMA, all it takes is that small crack to blow the entire fight wide open.
Think's going to win in the fight between Jack Della and Islam?
It's a good fight, but a tough fight. I go a little bit more on Islam.
Chael Sonnen then takes the conversation in a fascinating direction by pointing out that Jack Maddalena actually has a very good reason to have unique insight into Islam Makhachev and where he stands as a fighter. This is an underrated angle that many casual fans overlook. MMA is not just about what you see in the cage on fight night. It is about the preparation, the sparring rounds, the film study, the gyms you have been through, the partners you have felt in training, and the awareness you develop about different styles long before the cage door closes. Chael is essentially reminding everyone that Jack is not walking into this fight fight blind. He has seen Islam's style up close, he has trained with fighters who mimic aspects of that Dagestani grind, and he has likely built a mental catalog of what works and what does not against someone like Islam. This is where things become very dangerous for Islam. When a fighter comes in with zero reference point to your style, you have the element of surprise. But when a fighter has lived around it, studied it, and tested himself against similar molds, he comes in with a roadmap. Now that roadmap may not guarantee success, but it allows him to avoid the panic that often consumes opponents of Dagestani wrestlers. Most fighters freeze when they are taken down. Most fighters break before they even attempt to escape. If Jack has already faced these pressures in the gym, if he already knows what it feels like to have someone ride his hips, if he already knows the patience required to not burn out in the scrambles, then he enters with a clear mental edge. He will not be shocked by the positions. He will not mentally break at the first takedown. Chael's point is crucial because it reshapes the narrative. Fans talk as if Jack is going to be baptized into something he has never seen before, but Chael is saying no. Jack knows this game. He understands the mechanics. He knows what kind of storm is coming his way, and that is why underestimating him is foolish. Knowledge is power in MMA. Familiarity breeds confidence, and if Jack carries that confidence into the cage, Islam's aura of inevitability could start to crack. That crack could lead to scrambles. Those scrambles could lead to striking exchanges, and suddenly the fight is no longer Islam's playground. Suddenly, it is a real fight where Jack can show his strength.
There's very good reason that Jack would have very good insight to Islam and where he stands.
Chael Sonnen then addresses one of the biggest narratives floating around, that this fight is going to be an awful night for Jack because Islam will do to him what Khamzat Chimaev did to Dricus du Plessis. This narrative is dangerous, lazy, and completely disrespectful to both Jack and the complexity of MMA. Chael highlights how fans and analysts often latch onto one performance and then use it as a cookie-cutter prediction for entirely different matchups. The idea is simple. Khamzat ragdolled Dricus, therefore Islam will ragdoll Jack. But this is not how fighting works. Every matchup is unique. Every fighter has different strengths, different weaknesses, different styles. Dricus being overwhelmed by Khamzat does not mean Jack will automatically fold against Islam. The comparison itself is flawed because Khamzat and Islam are not carbon copies. Yes, both come from grappling heavy foundations, but the way they apply their pressure, their explosiveness, their setups, and their finishing instincts are not the same. Khamzat is chaos. He thrives in the storm, exploding with reckless aggression and brute force. Islam is methodical, calm, and measured. He drowns you slowly instead of crashing through you violently. To assume Islam will replicate Khamzat's performance against Dricus is to ignore these distinctions entirely. And then there is Jack himself. Jack is not Dricus. His striking is sharper, his range management is different, his defense in the pocket is more refined, and his overall fight IQ leans toward patience and control rather than brute chaos. These are all ingredients that could completely change the equation against Islam. Chael's rejection of this narrative is a powerful reminder that MMA math does not exist. You cannot look at what fighter A did to fighter B and then assume fighter C will do the exact same thing. This is why fights happen. This is why predictions get torn apart in real time. Jack is his own fighter with his own weapons. Islam is his own fighter with his own blueprint. To disrespect Jack by equating him to a victim of Khamzat's storm is not only unfair, it is ignorant of what makes MMA the most unpredictable sport on the planet. This narrative only fuels the fire for Jack to show the world that he is not another victim. He is not another pawn in the Dagestani dominance storyline. He is a live dog with bite in his hands, grit in his heart, and the mindset to shatter lazy assumptions.
Past week, there is a narrative that has come out that this is going to be an awful fight. Going to be awful because Islam will do to Jack what Chimaev did to Dricus.
Chael Sonnen points out something fascinating when he says it is interesting to him that Dricus has never had that done to him, and Chimaev has never done that to anybody else. What Chael is really highlighting here is the sheer unpredictability of this sport. Dricus du Plessis has never been dominated in that specific manner. Nobody has ever controlled him with such raw physicality or attempted to expose him in a way that made him look ordinary. On the other hand, Khamzat Chimaev has built his entire aura on being an unstoppable force, yet the type of sustained dominance people are talking about here has never truly been a signature of his fighting style. This contrast creates tension. It creates uncertainty. If Dricus has never been broken in that way, and Khamzat has never truly shown that weapon, then what are we really judging this matchup on? Chael's observation cuts deep into the myth-making that fans create around fighters. Too often people take assumptions, package them as facts, and begin running with narratives that do not align with reality. If Khamzat has not proven it against anyone else, why should we assume he will suddenly flip a switch and do it against a champion as durable and experienced as Dricus? That is where the conversation gets real. Chael is not denying Khamzat's talent. He is questioning the leap of logic that fans are making. This is not about hype, it is about facts. And the fact remains, Dricus has never been broken that way, and Khamzat has never proven he can do it.
That's interesting to me, considering Dricus has never had that done to him. Oh, and by the way, Chimaev's never done that to anybody else.
Chael builds on that thought when he notes how surprising it is that in MMA, we are suddenly experiencing a resurgence where two guys fight, something unexpected happens, and now everyone assumes it is the new reality. Specifically, he addresses the belief that Chimaev could take Dricus down at will and keep him there. This is the heart of the hype cycle in combat sports. One single event shifts perception, and suddenly people rewrite the history of both fighters involved. Nobody thought Chimaev could just ragdoll Dricus, yet after whispers of it, fans are speaking as though it is inevitable. Chael is calling out the inconsistency. The beauty of MMA has always been in its unpredictability. You cannot take one potential outcome and universalize it. Dricus is a strong, physically imposing champion with underrated wrestling defense. To say Chimaev will effortlessly take him down and keep him there disregards the years of grind that Dricus has endured. It also disregards the fact that Chimaev himself has not consistently shown that level of suffocating control against elite competition. Chael's point is not about disrespecting either man. It is about highlighting the laziness in how narratives are built. One unexpected thing happens, and suddenly people forget all the battles, all the styles, all the evidence that came before. That is why this fight feels so raw and so uncertain. Both men carry strengths, both men carry weaknesses, but nobody has the right to oversimplify what is going to happen.
It's really a surprise that all of a sudden wrestling has this resurgence because you had two guys fight that we didn't think would happen, right? Nobody thought that Chimaev could take him down at will and keep him there.
Finally, Chael addresses the so-called experts when he says that all of a sudden everybody becomes a fight expert and starts declaring that Islam Makhachev has similar skills to Chimaev, so he is definitely going to win. Chael then delivers the knockout line of logic. Where have you guys seen Islam control someone at his own will? Where? This is classic Chael Sonnen, the master of exposing weak arguments. Fans love to draw lazy parallels between fighters. Just because Islam is dominant in his grappling does not mean he fights like Chimaev. They are completely different athletes with unique skill sets, mentalities, and approaches to combat. Islam is calculated, patient, and focused on positional control. Chimaev is explosive, chaotic, and thrives on overwhelming his opponents. To say they are interchangeable is not analysis, it is ignorance. Chael is challenging the fans to back up their claims with evidence. Where has Islam shown that level of reckless dominance? Where has he forced his will in the same manner that people are imagining Chimaev will against Dricus? The truth is, he has not. He has dominated, yes, but not in the exact way people are trying to suggest. Chael's frustration comes from seeing narratives being shaped without facts to support them. Fans are so desperate to predict the future that they confuse surface-level similarities with actual proof. Chael is demanding intellectual honesty in a sport that too often rewards hype over truth.
All of a sudden this light goes on and you're this big fight expert and oh my goodness, Islam has similar skills. Well, I would have to stop you right there. In what fight has Islam ever taken somebody down and controlled them similar to the way Chimaev did to Dricus? Where have you seen that?
The UFC 319 press conference between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus du Plessis has exposed more than just the personal rivalry between two fighters. It has revealed the flaws in how fans and analysts alike sometimes approach the sport. Chael Sonnen's commentary drives home the importance of reality over narrative. Dricus has never been dominated the way some people are predicting. Chimaev has never consistently displayed that kind of dominance, and yet fans are quick to assume that this fight will follow that script. Chael reminds us that MMA is about unpredictability, not lazy comparisons and surface-level analysis. The claims that Islam fights like Chimaev or that Dricus will be easily ragdolled are not grounded in fact but in emotion and hype. What makes this fight so compelling is that we do not know what will happen. Dricus is the unbroken champion. Khamzat is the wild storm that has yet to truly be tested in this way. Their collision is not about rewriting what we think we know, but about discovering truths that have not yet been revealed inside the octagon. That is the magic of this sport, and that is why UFC 319 feels like a fight that could shake the entire foundation of the middleweight division.